The Tiger Moth, the iconic 30s biplane, the Yellow Wonder. Hey guys, it's model making time, and today we're looking at the de Havilland Tiger Moth. So fun fact, I've never actually built one of these before, and I don't know why. I'm pretty sure it had one of the original Airfix ones, and my friend Captain BFC has built so many of these. So the fact that I haven't is kind of astounding. I mean, BFC is even the person who gave me the decals for this kit, so like, what am I doing? But look, I'm getting ahead of myself. Whilst this may not have ever been my favourite aircraft in the world, could this be one of my favourite kits? As usual, we'll be looking at the history of the Tiger Moth itself, a condensed one of course for the video's sake, and then we'll also have a look at the history of the kit, or as I call it, the kit story, and then we'll look at me building the whole kit and, well, then some final reveals of it popping off. Before we do that though, make sure you're subscribed to the channel to stay up to date on the latest videos that I release. Just go down below and hit that subscribe button. And whilst you're there, give the video a like and leave a comment. Have you built a Tiger Moth before? If so, in what markings? If you want to join a lovely community of like-minded, lovely modelers, then make sure to join my Discord. The link is in the description below. You can share your latest builds or build along with other people. It's a really lovely place to hang out and talk all things modelling. Right, and I guess with that then, it's time to get into the history of the Tiger Moth. De Havilland's image of a trainer goes all the way from the 1920s with the DH-51 all the way up to De Havilland Canada's Chipmunk. You can see the lineage all the way through. But in order to look at, well, the later aircraft, we need to go and have a look at where the Tiger Moth started. And I've already mentioned it. It started in the 1920s with the DH-51. This aircraft was built from the surplus of World War I, using engines that were left over, and was built as an economical biplane, a touring plane. Well, this plane was actually never that successful, at least compared to what we think of successful by modern standards of aircraft. There were not many of these built, in fact, only 3 were manufactured. But what's important is what this led to, which was the Tiger Moth. But before it got there, it would be the de Havilland Moth. The DH-60, which was the de Havilland Moth, was the predecessor to the Tiger Moth, and there were over 1,500 of these built. This was a smaller plane than the DH-51, and it was of simpler construction. In fact, it started also using the de Havilland Gypsy engines, which would become synonymous with the later Tiger Moth. This aircraft to me really shows the links between World War I and World War II aircraft, going from that sort of almost, I guess, rickety experimental biplane to something that looks really polished. And that would only go further as the Moth itself was developed. Changes to the wings angles, the strut placement, and of course upgrading the engine to the Gypsy 3 would lead ultimately to a new Moth being made, and that would be the DH-82, the Tiger Moth. A near decade after the flight of the DH-51, this was the biplane of Britain, and indeed in many people's eyes this was the biplane of the world. This was the perfect trainer, a 2-seat tandem aircraft. This aircraft first flew on the 26th of October 1931, with the RAF soon placing orders for the first 35 production aircraft. 35 might seem like a massive amount compared to the DH-51's 3, but ultimately there would be 8,868 aircraft built. And that's not even counting all of the new versions that are being built today, because this aircraft is still in production, either in scale versions or as full replicas. Oh, and of course there was a seaplane version, because almost everything had a seaplane version back then. There were multiple variants of this aircraft, and it saw service around the entire world, from Belgium to Burma, from Spain to Saudi Arabia, from the United Kingdom to Uruguay. This was a plane of the world. This could be an aircraft that not only sees 100 years of flight following its first flight, but could also see 100 years since it left service in 1959, which is incredible. And I guess with that amazing fact, we need to go over into the kit story. Now, I've done a couple of videos which have had shorter kit stories, so let me reassure you today, this one's a bit longer. So whilst the model kit that I built started all the way in 2013, we're going to look at where Airfix's Tiger Moths originally started. The first release of the Airfix Tiger Moth came just before the type was retired in 1957. You could buy this kit almost everywhere, with US releases and New Zealand releases, as you can see. The box remained the same with the releases in 67, 73 and 1978. There was another international release though, which was the New Zealand release, which took place somewhere in the 70s. We then got the boxing that I hate the most, which was the 80s release where it's just a picture of the model on the box. Groundbreaking.
Morals for spring. Groundbreaking.
This was the release of 1987, but thankfully it only saw like one release with that box art. Because then we had a string of releases with the original box art in 1990, 1992, 93 and 1995. The releases did then start to slow down, with the final string being in 2004, 2006 and in 2008. The tooling has been used by a lot of other manufacturers, but it was no longer an Airfix kit. And that's where my tooling comes in. 2013, that's where this style boxing was originally released. But it's been released quite a few times. There was this version, which was the red version, and then also a military version that was also released, because the red one was the civvy version. We then also had a iconic yellow gift set that was released in 2014, but given how hard yellow is to paint, I understand why that may not be the one that is front and center all the time. A silver release also came out in 2018, but then, 10 years after this one came out, it was released again in the red, which I think is the boxing I got. Mine comes as a set, so it includes the paints, the brush, and the glue. Obviously, I'm not going to use that, but it's great that they do come together. In fact, I think mine actually came from Lidl, so it was dirt cheap. Finally, this year we've had a really interesting release which features a US and Australian marking. We've made it. That was really long, I know. A lot longer than we've done for quite a while, but, you know, sit back and relax a little bit. Of course, there are other manufacturers that have released this kit, but I don't have the scope to go through all of that in today's video. So I guess we'll just go straight on to looking at what's inside the box, right? Okay, so confession time, I forgot to film the unboxing and the start of the building, so you're going to see two boxings here, the 2024 boxing and the 2023 boxing, and the decals for both, but obviously they are identical insides because they're both Tiger Moths. The decals are both from Cartograph, so are of very good quality, even though I'm not actually going to be using mine at all. We'll see why later on, but yeah, they're all really nice overall. The detail on the kit is quite nice. This is a really basic kit, probably one of the most basic kits I've ever built, but hopefully it will all go together really easily. It's a really lovely kit, and honestly, this is a really good Mojo build because there are so few parts. Well, now you've seen what's inside the box, I guess we need to have a look at the construction. The construction of this kit is really easy, and first of all I just want to say yes, I am using the God Hand sprue cutters here. These were supplied to me by eModels. They gave me a pair of them when we were at Telford Scale Model World this year, so thank you eModels for providing me a pair of these. These are incredible, and you'll see how much less cleanup I have to do on some of the parts compared to my previous sprue cutters. But of course they come at a premium, but I think they're worth the money. Now once I've cut out the first load of parts, it's a case of building the cockpit, or the interior of the cockpit should I say. This goes together really easily. I don't know why, but my brain sort of just couldn't work out which bits went where, but I think that's a me problem. It's definitely not the kit. Once you put it together, you just have to glue it into the inside of the kit, and then you've got to glue the two fuselage halves together. There are quite a few small parts with this kit, obviously being a biplane and in 1/72 scale, so tweezers are a must. Mine are not a branded set, so if anyone would like to send me some, let me know. But yeah, these are just some cheap ones that I bought off Amazon before. I try and not buy things that are necessarily going to be too wasteful, but you know, you can't really go wrong with tweezers, right? But yeah, I'm just using them to make sure I get things just in the right place. This is probably not as much of an issue for a lot of people, but sometimes my nails just slightly get in the way, even though I can use them as tweezers a lot of the time, so you know, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. Once I've put the fuselage together as well, it's time to put the tail section together. This goes on so easily, it's actually unreal. Like, I can't believe how easy this kit is to put together. You'll also notice I've been using one glue throughout. I tend to use Revell Contactor. To be honest, most glues are relatively similar, but I think the setting time on this is long enough that I can move things around if I get it slightly wrong, but short enough that I don't feel like I'm waiting hours for things to dry. And I've just used it for years, so I'm kind of used to it. Plus, it's really easy to get at places like Hobbycraft. But most glue companies at this point, or most modelling supply companies, do have some sort of glue that's very similar to this. I like it with the sort of the needle spout, it's just really useful. The wings obviously on a biplane are different to a monoplane because there are two sets of them. So for once I actually remembered just to put the bottom set on, because you want to put the top set on after you've painted everything and it all looks good. Now, I will say I'm not a fan of the propeller assembly because I think this is one of the few times where it's just too easy to glue it together. And in fact, I've now built two of these. On one of them, the propeller spins, but I was convinced it wouldn't. And on the other one, I was convinced it would, and it didn't. So it is what it is. Like, I don't love it, it's not my favourite. Now, there is this tail skid on the end as well, and I actually lost one of these. I did replace it with some metal. I just got like some guitar string, and that will come in again later on, but I got some guitar string and I just literally bent it into a similar shape and stuck it on with some super glue, but then I ended up getting another set anyway, so I now have the proper part. Now obviously with painting, I am doing all of this with an airbrush because, I mean, that's just how I roll now. I'm using my Mobius airbrush supplied by a gallery. They gave me the airbrush, and there's no expectation of a good review, but just making it really transparent that that is the one I'm using. I use life colour paints. I'm probably one of the few people you watch on YouTube who only uses life colour, but I find them really easy to work with. I really enjoy them. The white primer has been something that I've had to get used to. I just don't think I've ever got the consistency quite right, but I think I did a bit of a better job on here. But obviously I wanted to make sure I primed it with white rather than grey, which I used on the rest of the model, because Well, the wings are going to be bright yellow underneath. Now, I haven't told you yet, but I'm actually doing these in a really unusual scheme. I am using decals from Winter Decals, and this is Norwegian tiger moths. There are actually quite a few schemes that come with this. I've got enough left over to make at least one more, but there was one that really just caught my eye, which is camouflage tiger moth with yellow underwing surfaces, and then a really unique RAF roundel that has some more red in it, akin to, like, you know, the Norwegian roundel, I guess, or well, they didn't really have one. They used a stripe prior to the war, but it just, I don't know, it was really unusual, and I was just like, that's what I want to do. I didn't want to do the civil one that came in the box, so thank you, Captain VFC, for sending me these decals. It's really appreciated. And yeah, I went over the actual model itself with grey primer, Panzer Grey primer, and then I covered the whole model, other than the underwing surfaces, with RAF Dark Earth Brown. This is just out of the Life Colours RAF set. And yeah, that's what I ended up doing, because then I figured I could just do the green over the top to get a really nice finish. Now the yellow, I ended up mixing one. I wish I had tried some other brands out, because it would have been a good opportunity to. But also, after doing my Marivox Saab 105 and Team 60 colours, I really wanted to make sure I could still do yellow well. And also, something interesting is this is the first time I've used an airbrush after I've like fully stripped it down. So I wanted to also check like I still know how to clean it properly and, you know, do all that. So I was really happy with what I did in the end. I think the yellow actually looks about right. It's a mixture of finish yellow and matte yellow. Yeah, I don't know, I think I did a good job in the end. Like, is this my best model ever? No, but I think it looks alright. Now, as mentioned previously, I have gone over the whole model with what I thought was dark brown, but I think I've actually done the whole model in green first, and then I'm going over the top with the dark earth brown. This was just the easiest way to get the camo out. I wasn't really following anything too much. I was using the pictures for reference, but just wanted to try and get something similar, even if it's not like 100% historically accurate. I mean, there weren't many, I think, in this scheme from what I've sort of read, so I probably should have paid a bit more attention, but this was just a Mojo build for me, really. I was definitely feeling a bit burnt out by Concord, which I promise you that video is on its way, but I just wanted to do something that was fun and simple. I did this when I was modelling with a couple of my friends, and yeah, I think I did okay in the end. It was definitely a really fun exercise in just using an airbrush and cleaning an airbrush properly, so if anything, at least I think I've got some better skills out of it. So now you see the decals that I have from Vinga, and I really like these. They were good. I did find they fell apart quite easily. They're very fragile, so I ended up having to paint part of the roundels back on. I did find especially the tail fin decals did fall apart really easily. This again could be user error. I've never used this brand before, but to be honest, I didn't mind it too much because it was quite easy to paint the bits back on. But I think just bear that in mind, these are going to be a lot more fragile than like your traditional decals that come in a box. So yeah, just like they're definitely good, and they weren't too expensive. I think they were about like £10, but just bear it in mind. Now, after doing my F117 video, I have a number of blacks available to me. The propeller spinner is black with some colour on the very ends, so that was really easy to do. And then for the wheels, I actually decided to go and actually make a bit of extra effort. I ended up doing these in the rubber colour, the black rubber colour, and then I went over them with a little bit of black with some gallery pens you'll see later on, just to try and give it a bit more variance in the colour, make it look a bit more natural. Now, touch-ups happen to all of us, and I think it's always worth leaving it in the video to show that, yeah, I have to do lots of touch-ups in my videos. I am definitely far from perfect, as any of you who've seen my streams will know. So I did a lot of touch-ups after I'd finished airbrushing it overall. Airbrushing the whole thing did mean it was a lot easier, even though I had to do more touch-ups than I would have done if I'd brush painted. The whole thing was done in one sitting, really. It just didn't take much time at all. Now, the decals for this were nice, as I say. They did fall apart a little bit on me, but I found the entire undersection went on really, really nicely. Everything went on really smoothly. There weren't any issues, and to be honest, the instructions are pretty damn good for this. Definitely one of the best instruction books I've had for decals, so I definitely think this is a brand I would buy from again if I saw something that took my fancy from them. I would definitely recommend them to a friend as well if they went, have you heard of these? I would be like, yes, slay, they are great. They're a bit fragile, but they are definitely good. I think one of the things you can see here as well is the roundel does come as a complete set, so it is the blue, white, red. You don't have to do any adjustments for that, which is nice because I guess a lot of people will remember, and it still happens a bit today, that some companies do sell it as like you get the blue and the white and then you have to put the red dot in. It still happens, but not as common now, but yeah. And also they're all on red, so they all seem to be in perfect alignment. And the colour opacity seems pretty good as well. Like this is going on yellow, which is quite a bright colour to go like have a white decal over, and it looks fine. It looks really good. Now, unfortunately, I didn't capture this properly on screen, but what you're actually looking at now is me putting the side decal on. You can see that it's got the standard RAF decal on the side, but what actually will happen is you put another decal over the top of it, and then you have this really weird but unique Royal Air Force Norwegian squadron markings. I really love it. I think it's really cool, really unique. And you do the same thing on the tail section as well. You put on the standard RF colours, and then you add in some additional red. I think it's really cool, really unique. Yeah, decals I think look really nice, even if I've had to like paint some bits on. I think it's looked really, really smart in the end. Now, if you haven't seen it already, I've got a whole video about using guitar string for sort of rigging, so I will link that video sort of up in the corner if you want to go watch it. I would highly recommend it. It's a really good video, even if I do say so myself, about how to do it. And I'm using that technique again here. I'm just cutting up bits of guitar string to get some rigging in place. Is it the cleanest way to do it? No. Does proper rigging look better? Probably yes, but this is a quick and easy way to do it. And again, this was a Mojo build. I did not want to be spending too much time on it, and I just wanted to do it with supplies that I really easily had. I did actually look at getting some elastic rigging stuff, but it wasn't on sort of next day delivery. As I say, this was a Mojo build. I just wanted it done as soon as possible. I did find it really difficult to cut the wire, which I was like, I swear last time I did this I found it really easy. So I used sort of my army painter as cutters initially, and then I tried to use these fabric scissors, which is probably really stupid, and then I went back to the sprue cutters and it just worked. So don't know what all that was about, but yeah. I actually ended up finding that using the sprue cutters was the easiest way to hold it in place. Now, this doesn't glue instantly, and I remember this being an issue last time as well. You do have to hold it in place for a fair bit for the glue to actually solidify enough for it to hold in place. And once it's there, you just have to be a bit careful for a little bit. You're not going to knock it straight out of place. Even once it has been glued, it is very easy to knock these out. One of the issues with super glue as a substance in general is it's much more fragile than other substances. Whilst it will bond two things together, it's a very rigid material that will just shatter rather than sort of bending. It's not like plastic contact cement that we use, that you get like the Revell contactor that fuses the plastic together. This isn't the case. You're bonding two completely substances together, so just bear that in mind. If you do knock it, it is very, very easy to just like have it completely shatter. And the other thing to consider as well is this will not like come out of clothes, so yeah, maybe don't do it in your nice dressing gown like I did, because that's a silly idea. Now I reached out to Gallery and asked them if they could send me some of their new markers, because I thought this would be a really nice way to get some paint in areas where I didn't want to just sort of crack out a paintbrush, particularly on things like undercarriage where it's very often quite fiddly and a paintbrush is fine, but using a solid nib might be a bit easier. And I thought I would try it for the first time on this to get some colour on the cables, and it seemed to work really well. Essentially what I did was I went over them with sort of a steel colour, and then after that I went over sort of the corners at the front with gunmetal just to give some variance. I guess make it look a little bit worn, but I don't know if that was the right thing to do. I just followed my heart. And then after that I gave the whole thing a varnish, and I actually used AK's Ultra Matte Varnish. I've had this varnish for ages. For some reason I just really enjoy AK's varnish range, because I have like a really nice plastic surface underneath. I didn't even want to get a plate out, so I just did it straight onto the surface. But yeah, I just want to have a really nice sort of matte sheen, I guess, of like a really nice fabric. So yeah. Well, you've seen the building, and you may notice that this model here is not the finished one, because, well, it's almost done, but I've had to add some extra bits in afterwards. So let's go have a look at the Tiger Moth popping off. Well, what do you think? As I say, this one's not quite finished. The only things I need to add is the rigging, and I know already how much of a pain that will be because I've done rigging before. That's if I actually remember where I put all the bits for the rigging anyway. Rigging isn't that difficult, it's just time consuming, especially if you use like the guitar string method. So that's what I'm hoping to do on this one. And if it turns out I've lost the rigging, well, this is what we're going to end up with. This was really nice because I just wanted to build something really simple and this kit fell together. I decided not to put the pilots in purely because, again, this was a palette cleanser and a simple kit for me to do and I just didn't want to. So I can add them at a later date, but for now I just decided to do it as is. The paint scheme was really easy. It was RAF colours for the most part, and although I didn't have the yellow that was required, I just mixed together the two yellows that I had until I got a colour that I thought was relatively similar. The decals did go on really nicely. I did have some difficulty on the back section, and I also had difficulty with one of the roundels. But I painted it and I, to be honest, don't think you can tell super badly. I mean, maybe if you come really close up, which given you've just seen it in that style, you might have been able to tell, but overall I don't think it's too bad. This was also one of the first times that I've had to really properly clean out my, my airbrush, and it taught me a lot. And this just gave me a lot of opportunities to develop as a modeler, so I really enjoyed it. It's a really cute little plane, and I think I will definitely build more of these because, look, the FC was right. It's a really cool aircraft. It's such a nice kit, and it just looked really good. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, in terms of buy or fly, buy this kit. This was really cheap. I got it from Lidl. Lidl and Aldi, they tend to do sales fairly regularly throughout the year. When I say regular, I don't mean like, you know, every week, but a few times a year you'll see Airfix kits. If you see the Tiger Moth, I thoroughly recommend it. It does come with paints and glue as well. You are only going to be able to make the one in the box, so you're going to spend basically the cost of the kit to get some additional decals if it's not the one you want, but I think that's okay, to be honest. And in fact, the set I got, I can still make another 2 out of the set I have, so, you know, win-win. I really am surprised that I enjoyed this kit as much as I did. I mean, the fact that I wanted to do the rigging after I built it says a lot, really. Well, I guess that's everything. Thank you so much for being here, guys. It really does mean the world to me. I really want to hear about the Tiger Moths you've made, and if you're in the Discord, if you're not, obviously join it, link in the description below. Go and share your pictures there, go in the finished builds, and we'll make a Tiger Moth thread and just share all our Tiger Moths. And join, it's free, we can all talk together. If you liked what you've seen here today, make sure to go and hit the thumbs up button and like this video down below, and subscribe to the channel whilst you're there. You've made it all the way through, so clearly you enjoy my content and want to see more of it. And leave me a comment down below as well. Do you think I did a good job? And what's your favourite Tiger Moth that you've ever made? Thank you so much for being here, guys. It really means the world to me, and yeah, I'm so excited to see you all. If you want to support the channel, make sure to hit the join button down below where you can become a channel member, though all my content is generally free for everyone, but yeah, it's just another way that you can support the channel and support any weird builds because, yeah, like Concord, that is coming at some point. Before I get too sad about Concord, I'll see you later, guys. Bye! Thank you so much to all of my channel members. Whether you're a starter kit or advanced kit level member, you help keep this channel alive. A special shout out goes to my advanced kit level members, including Dafty Duck, Buff and Genevieve Albridge, David Barber, Taggers365, Jeff's Dioramas, Iron Duke, and my longest time subscribers, or at least at this tier, Explosive Water and Crazy Loacher. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here today, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and there's a recommended video here just for you, so why don't you go check it out? Come on, let's go.